Welcome to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. Today is episode number 212. Stay tuned. Hi, everybody. How are you today? Oh my gosh, it is spring. I can barely see through the leaves in my trees anymore because the leaves are almost in full bloom with no help from me. How are you doing? How's it going on your end? It's kind of a crazy time, isn't it? Who would have ever thunk this? But I hope I've been putting out some really good information for you on how to manage your mind, because this is the one thing that I say every time. I'm going to say it again. There's one thing you can never control, and that's the circumstance. And there's 4 things that you can control, which are your thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. And I hope you're really taking that to heart and working on it. And today I have something I think really special. It's another interview with one of my precious clients. And I keep putting these on because these people are doing these interviews with me during this weird time. And they are doing so well that I think it's really good for you to hear it, because I started the work with them before this virus ever came about. And when we finished the work, it was just starting. But when I did the interviews, it was going on. And they are all doing so beautifully that I think it's good to hear what's going on in their minds on how they're managing so much better. They're happier, even though this virus is going on. They're eating when they're hungry and they're stopping when they're full, even when this virus is going on and they're isolated and they can't go out as much. They're taking better care of themselves now more than ever. It's available to you too. So today I want you to enjoy this interview that I did with Jennifer. And she was really interesting because I think one of the things that I remember the most about her that you're going to hear about is that she was very, very hesitant at first about investing the money in herself, which sometimes people are. But she also states that it's the biggest reason why she was so successful. So I really want you to hear that when she talks about it today. And I'll get back on at the end and give a few ideas of my own on what I thought about my interview with her. So sit back or walk or lay down, whatever it is you're doing, and really listen to this interview with Jennifer and let it soak through you and know that where she is a possibility for you too. Enjoy. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the video. It's so good to see you in person. Usually we're just talking on the phone.
Yes. Hi.
Hi. It's so good to see you.
Glad to be here.
Yes. And, one of the things is that we're talking about, like, you're probably kind of in isolation right now, and I'm kind of isolated. And yet I know that the work probably is even more important now than ever, which is why I still wanted to do this podcast with you.
Yeah.
But the way that I would love to start is if you can remember why you decided to set up a mini session with me. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, what was going on? Like, how did that occur? Because I always wonder how people do it.
I had started 2 years before I found you.
Yep.
I had joined a program called Bright Line Eating to help me with my weight, overweight, diabetic, on insulin, the whole 9 yards. And so I had lost about 65 pounds and I had about 20 more to go, and I couldn't get that last 20 off. Was really struggling with my eating, wanting to give up, was still following my food protocols, but still wasn't having the kind of blood sugar control that I wanted, even though by losing the weight, I had gone off of the insulin and off of the, all the medications I was taking.
Yes.
So I called you because I was really frustrated. I was really, the program I was on was like no flour, no sugar. But when I had reached that plateau, I also decided to do keto, and I did a little intermittent fasting, and I was really trying to control the food necessarily. I needed you to help me figure out what was not working right for that last bit of weight. Okay.
And how frustrated were you by the time you called me?
Oh, pretty freaking frustrated. 10.
A 10. Okay. And so when we had our mini session, because I remember talking to you and we talked about what made you decide to work with me. What took you from the mini session to the I'm going to work with her stage?
Well, you asked a lot of questions, and at one point you told me that some of my stories were BS.
I did not say that. I could not have said that.
You told me, well, that's quite a BS story, and I bet that you're convincing enough. I have bet you have other people believing that too. That's what you told me, and I remember,
yeah, like yourself.
Yes. I loved it that you were very no nonsense, and I really needed somebody who was going to be strong enough to handle my crazy anxious mind, that was going to be able to help me get past what I needed to get past to get the rest of the weight off. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I loved that.
Okay. So it's so nice that you loved my no BS attitude. And I probably screamed and yelled at you just a little, but not much.
No, I mean, you weren't mean.
I wasn't. Talk about that.
You weren't mean, but you were very direct. You were very direct. And I found that refreshing.
Yeah. And especially because you're a pretty smart girl.
On occasion.
Well, you're pretty smart, and you were pretty smart with the way that you were talking to yourself. And you sounded like you thought you were making sense to yourself.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right. And what I did is just start saying, that doesn't make any sense. Why are you saying that? Why are you saying that? And kind of blowing your stories out of the water a little bit, but enough that you could see that you were doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you struck a nerve. I mean, I realized I was doing it by the end of the conversation, because you also had me crying a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm making other people scared of mini sessions. They shouldn't be scared.
Well, I think that the purpose is to try to get you to do whatever it is that you want to do. And it sounds like that we went from the mini session to you knowing what your next step was, what you needed to do.
Yes.
Yeah. And you said something to me, so I think it's worth talking about, because once I got to the price, you were pretty hesitant. If you went from pretty sure, you went from pretty hesitant.
Yep.
And you talk a lot about that when you talk to me now, about how important it was that you did that investment on yourself. Just if you could say a little bit about it, because it was really...
the price was a holdback for me, because it's not cheap. I really think the value, so when I originally scheduled with you and said, okay, I'm going to do this. And the truth is that I sent my payment like within, I think, half an hour of having talked to you on the phone, because I thought to myself, if I'm going to take this leap, my thought was, if I'm going to take this leap of faith, I might as well just throw myself off the cliff. I just might as well just take a jump. And I knew that if I waited, that I would change my mind. But then when we went to schedule, you had, I think, 3 weeks before you could fit me in. So that whole 3 weeks I was fighting with myself. Should I back out of this? Am I crazy? What have I done? And the truth is, I almost feel like having that work was necessary for me to be ready to do it, because the only way this works is if I believe that I have worth and value, and I'm willing to invest in myself. And I think if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to have success. I think that you have to be willing to put down that kind of investment if you're going to have success. I wouldn't hesitate in a heartbeat to tell my husband to spend money on himself, or my son to spend money, or my mom or my dad. But for me, it was a different deal. It was work. I think that's like I think that's your secret first homework assignment before you even start working with people.
Well, but you said that it was probably like, in that first step of investing yourself is what put you all in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I was also terrified. I was terrified to pay money and then not be successful again, because, I wouldn't have come to you if I hadn't already tried 10,000 different things that cost me a good bit of money. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. That's right. So here's the thing that I think is really interesting, because I know that after you paid the money, you sent me an email that said something like, somebody's got to pick me up off the floor.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you said you were really excited and all that. But I'm just sharing this with everyone because it is a major step and it really does separate the people who are really willing to go all in on themselves and the people who are afraid.
Yeah.
And I know for some people it really is a money issue. I understand that. But for many people, it's not a money issue, it's a confidence issue. And for you to do that for yourself, the confidence enough that if I pay that money, I'm going to do the work.
Yeah.
It's like you followed it from the minute you paid it. Because you worked hard.
Yeah.
You did everything I told you to do and then some. And the way that you did models, like I think you're one of my clients. You're one of my clients that I consider a thought ninja. It's like you are so good at doing your own models and seeing your own thinking and being able to create new models. You're really, really good at it. And the other thing that I really noticed about you that I want to share with people is that you came from a different type of diet plan, like bright line eating. And you still basically use that protocol.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I never stopped using that protocol. Correct.
That's right. And what I want people to see is you can have a protocol and come in and still work with me. But my goal is to help you create a model so that if you're going, whatever your protocol is, you create some sort of a model that makes it easier for you to do it and to stick with it. Because I think prior to this, that's what was so hard for you, is that you thought you were doing all the right things, but I don't think you had the thought and feelings created right about why you wanted to do the work.
I think that's true, because one of the things that we worked on was, what's my why?
Yes.
Like what is my hard why about why I want to do this? And we got clear on that real quick.
Yeah. Do you remember what it was?
It was, oh my gosh, something like it was about determining my worth and see, now I'm on the spot. Determining my worth so that I am at peace with my body, something like that, at peace with food and my body.
Yes, because you were determining your worth by your body.
Yes.
Right? And punishing yourself for it.
Yes. And expecting myself to be perfect all of the time.
All of the time. And so when we started working, because I thought what was so magnificent about you when you came in is you had already lost 65 pounds. You had gotten yourself off so much medication, but you did it through a lot more willpower, but you were doing all the right things and you lost a lot of weight and you created a protocol. But then when you got stuck and the number wasn't changing as much, then your mind kind of went crazy.
Yeah, and then I started making it mean all kinds of things that I wasn't being successful, right? Plus, I was putting, I was expecting myself to always be perfect, and then
That's
when I wasn't perfect, then I would end up in this horrible shame spiral where I would be mean and mad at myself, and then that wasn't helpful either.
Right. And so now that you are on the other side of it, one of the things, so what would you say, like, I would say one of the biggest hurdles for you, and you can talk about it a little bit, is the scale didn't move for a while, right? Due to a lot of insulin resistance.
Yes.
And things with that you had to really think about what you wanted to do and stuff like that. And you had a couple major shitstorms. And I think it's really important to share it with people because I think that was what your major hurdle was. And I think that when you got over it, it's like everything changed for you. Everything changed for you. And so if you could talk a little bit about the scale not moving, you think you're doing the right thing and you getting pissed off and yet, and I want to really clarify this, even when all that was going on, you still stuck to your protocol.
Yeah.
But I want you to talk about that because you said to me, and even though I'm so frustrated, I still don't want to break my protocol because I really like the way I feel, but I just don't know what's going on. And you wanted to kind of just give it all up and think that nothing could be done. And we did some heavy coaching around that. And I want you to talk about that a little bit because you learned something about yourself that I think changed everything for you.
Well, I was, I came from another program where I had already, I don't eat flour and sugar.
Right.
And I also don't eat dairy, very much dairy. And mainly because they don't make my body feel good. Like,
that's right. You already came with what you knew you wanted to do. I knew,
and I had already, and giving up that flour and sugar, because for me, you eat a little bit of it and then you crave more of it, and then it just becomes this. So I had learned, and also artificial sweeteners, they just don't make my body, they may look good, but they don't make my body feel good.
Yes.
So I had not eaten those. And so here I was not eating those things. And I was doing everything I thought I needed to be doing. And I was getting on the scale and nothing was happening. And after, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long of that not happening, I got so frustrated because what the hell am I doing this for? And then I would get into this, poor me. Oh, I've given up sugar and I've given up flour and I've given up all of these things.
Yes.
And it's not,
everybody goes through this. I just love for you talking about it.
And so, what else is there left for me to give up? No one else is willing to eat this way, blah, blah, blah. And I would get really, and then I was like, well, what am I, I might as well just eat what, and part of it wasn't just the scale was moving. It was that my blood sugars were at that point a little bit higher. And so I was thinking, if I'm going to eat vegetables and healthy stuff, and I'm still going to have a blood sugar of 200 in the morning, then why don't I just eat a piece of cake for that matter? And I got really frustrated, and we had a session, and I'm sorry, it was really not that pretty. But it was true. I was like, I don't even want to eat those things because they don't make me feel good. And I don't know why that I'm not, because it doesn't seem like it's making that much difference. Mm-hmm. But I didn't break my protocol during that. And
why?
Because I knew what I really wanted. And I knew that if I ate out of frustration, it wasn't going to make me feel better. And you get to a point where I realized that the whole reason that I'm eating, when I manage my thoughts, when I really am willing to feel my emotions and I really am straight in my head, then I don't want to eat. That desire to eat compulsively leaves. And that's what I learned.
Yes.
And then then the weight started coming off, right?
Well, let's talk about that, because the weight didn't just start coming off. So,
well, no.
I mean, there was a process. There was a process that went there that is very important for you to share, of everything that you're sharing, because we did a lot of work on drinking. I mean, let's just talk about it, and a lot of stuff on that you learned how to manage. But the most important thing that you came to me with was your frustration over weight loss.
Yes.
And it's what showed up strongly in the middle of our work again.
Yeah.
And you were throwing a fit, and we talked about the fit that you were throwing, and realized that it wasn't serving you because you had the poor me attitude. I'm doing everything I can. But the truth is you weren't doing everything that you could do, and you couldn't because of the frustration that was stopping you from seeing what else you could do. Do you remember this?
Yes, because I really thought in my head that, I'd already gone off all this medication by losing the weight. And so I really thought that I could control my blood sugars and make everything perfect in my body all by myself by not eating sugar and flour. And so I really thought if I did everything perfectly, that everything would fall into place. And so I kept thinking, I got to do it better. I got to do it better. I got to do it better. And in reality, I needed to stop and go to the doctor and talk to my doctor about why my body wasn't cooperating, why my insulin resistance was still there. And after I went to the doctor and we talked about some different things, and she ordered some tests and like cortisol she ordered. And it's a long story, but I ended up with a brand new endocrinologist who has a more non-traditional way of treating people. And that really helped me get the breakthrough. But I had to get past the thinking in my head that I was thinking, I was thinking the whole thing that had to break was there's something wrong with me. Like there's something wrong. I'm not doing it right. I had to lose all of that and think, maybe there's something is wrong. Maybe there is something wrong, but there's not something wrong with me. Maybe there's something wrong with my body that I need medical intervention for. And that's what led me to go to the doctor.
Yes.
And I got some medical help, and now we're on the right track.
Right? And there were some steps after, there were even more steps after that. It's like once you decided, when you changed your thinking that I'm doing everything, as opposed to, like I think you went to something like I'm unstoppable.
Yeah, it was. My first thing was I don't have to be perfect.
Yes.
In my eating, I just have to. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be unstoppable.
Yes.
And then when it came to getting my blood sugars in line and controlling that and getting the scale, the other one was I don't have to know how. I just have to be unstoppable. I'm going to try something different, and I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to follow it through to the end. And if that doesn't get me where I need to go, then I'm just going to try something new, and I'm going to keep going. Right.
Yes. And that is what I want to be able to share with everybody that's watching this. For everybody, it's different. For some people, when the scale's not moving, they do go off protocol, and they do prove that what they're doing, that it's not working. What you did is you stayed on protocol, but you proved it wasn't working by not looking outside of what you were thinking.
Yeah.
Right? Because actually there were things outside of your thinking that could be helpful, but you didn't believe it because you thought it just had to do with you.
True.
When you could get help.
And if I had broken, I wouldn't have come to the aha moment that I had that
That's
I needed
right.
medical intervention if I hadn't really done it well. Like I had a period of, I don't know how long, almost a month where I was literally perfect in my protocol and nothing happened. And then that's when I realized, oh my God, like there were times in the past when I would break and break and break and break. Well, with your help with the thought work, I didn't have a break in my protocol, and it still didn't fix everything. It took that for me to realize, okay, maybe there's something going on here.
So for people who are listening to this, because it takes one strong mama to be able to do that part and then still stick with herself, right? And it's like, because of the work that we did together, you went from that to opening your mind up to that I'll figure it out, that I'm unstoppable, that went to talking to doctor after doctor, even to doing some different types of workouts that you thought you would never do before because it wasn't in your spectrum of what you did. You started breaking your own thoughts about, well, if I'm unstoppable, then I just have to find the answer.
Yeah.
And by golly, I do believe you did because of the thought that you had. It's the thought that you had that led you to figure out how to fix it. Like I didn't come up with the answer, did I? I didn't call the doctors. I didn't tell you this is what you have to do. We just worked on your headspace, and then you, Miss Jennifer, Miss Unstoppable Jennifer, did the work. So what do you want to say to people now that you're here, that you've done the work, that your blood sugars are better, that your weight is dropping, that you're on a medication that's helping you?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you want to say now that you're here? What would you say to somebody who's pondering? Because I have a lot of people that say to me, oh, I'm in menopause, I can't lose weight, everything I did doesn't work. That, and the other thing is like sometimes you don't know what it's going to be that's going to help, but you've got to start.
Yeah.
So say a little bit about that. You're here now. You're on the other end.
I would say that well, now I'm in coaching certification. Right.
Let's talk about a little bit about
I want to be
that.
able to coach, but we don't have to talk about this minute. But one of the things that they ask you in your pre-work are the top 5 positive things that have happened to you in your life and the top negative things that have happened to you.
Right.
You are on the top 5 things that have ever happened to me in my life outside of getting married and having a child. I cannot stress enough that if someone is on the fence, they just need to suck it up and do it. They just need to suck it up and do it. Because I honestly believe that if you want to change your life, you have to be willing to know your worth. And the best way to do that is to pay Dr. Deb. I'm not getting paid for this solution. No, I do think that, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Dr. Deb, but I'm not getting paid to tell you that.
Correct. And this isn't just about food. I mean, this is just about the way I think about everything. And not only that, but, now I've joined coaching certification to become a life coach. And that investment was significantly larger than the last investment I just made. And I feel like it's going to be great. It is great.
You know what I see with you, and I think it's really good for other people to see, it's like when you start taking care of yourself and start seeing your own worth, you also start looking at all the things that you really want to do. Because I think when you're obsessed about eating and weight, it's like it takes up all your energy.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that as it started taking up less, you said to me specifically, I want to tell you something. I've always wanted to be a life coach. And I said, well, why don't you? And you said, because I don't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said to me when you wanted to coach with me, you go, well, I don't think I can spend that kind of money on myself.
Yeah.
And it came up again. And then I said, do you mean you don't have the money? And then there was a little coaching session there about that again. And now you're in life coaching.
Yeah, no.
So we don't need to say, we can just end it by saying it's like the world has opened up to you, or
Yes.
You have opened up to the world.
And when your head is fuzzy and you're consumed with, like, I can't tell you, I spent decades of my life consumed about what I was eating or what I was gonna eat or about my weight. When those thoughts are gone, there's just space. There's space and time for all kinds of things that I never thought I would have space and time for before, including coaching certification. Yeah, well, working full time and having a family and older parents that I care for, except everything's changed right now because we're in isolation, but it's all good. It's the perfect time.
It's the perfect time. And that's the interesting thing just to say is that things always change.
Yep.
Right? Circumstances change all the time. But what you can depend on, what you're depending on right now is you're in charge of your mind. Is that life-changing?
That is absolutely life-changing.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here today. It was a beautiful experience. I loved every minute of working with you and for your vulnerability and for the work that you put into yourself. It's a testament. Anybody that's watching this, to know the work that you put into this and to watch where you are right now. I feel like a mother that just birthed a child. It's like I'm so proud. I'm so proud. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a while since I worked with Jennifer, so it was so good, just listening to this interview again, because I actually did this interview quite a while ago, so I got to re-listen to it too. She really is amazing. And I think one of the most beautiful things about her that maybe you heard in this interview is once she decided to invest in herself and get this to be the very last time that she ever does this again, which you could tell by talking to her it is. And she was up against a lot of obstacles because she was a diabetic and she had a lot of problems that losing weight really helped her with. But it also caused the scale to not do what she wanted to do. And if you listened to that interview, you could tell that the work that we did on the scale not moving was probably the work that made her be the most successful at doing it, and also let her know why this will be the very last time that she ever does this again is because she could manage the scale. And she figured out that even when she thought she was doing everything she could, as soon as she changed that thinking and decided to think that she was unstoppable and that she would figure it out, she figured out what she needed to do with the way that she was eating, with the medication that she was taking, to figure out how to get the scale to start moving again. And she totally did. It's totally up to you, unless you give up too soon. She decided this time she wasn't, and you could hear it in her voice and see it in her. This is a done deal for her. And it can be the same for you too. This can be the last time for you. There's never been a better time for you to do the work on yourself than now, because guess what? You get to be with yourself more now than ever. So if there's something in you that you want to change, if you're ready to be able to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full and stop using food for your emotions, now is the time. Jennifer did it, and so can you. If this is interesting to you, you can talk to me and you can find out if my individual coaching is right for you, and I can tell you if I think I can help you. You can go to drdebbutler.com/work with me and set up a mini session, and you and I can figure out how we can make this your very, very last time that you ever do this, just like Jennifer. And as always, before I end this podcast, you know what I'm going to say, but I'll say it anyway, like I say it every single week. Whatever else you do, please, please, please be very, very, very kind to yourself, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast with my wife, Dr. Deborah. I've enjoyed working with her and living with her. That's right, we work and live together for 40 years, more than 40 years. It's amazing how time flies. And it's been like a little tree growing in the yard, and now it's a big tree, our love. So I would like to invite you to correspond with Dr. Deborah. Go to iTunes, drdebbutler.com/iTunes, and you can review the show. And you can even give some helpful suggestions on what you would like to talk about in the future to accomplish your mindfulness and your journey into mindfulness. Thank you.